Ken, we can't hear you, buddy.
Hello.
Unplug your headset, bud.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. So let's try this again. It's all good. So good evening, everybody. My name is Ken Bluestejan. I'm the Associate Director of Recruitment for Western Atlantic University School of Medicine. And I'd like to welcome all of you to our information session this evening. For those of you that have joined us, if you have questions during this presentation, we do have our team of Associate Directors of Admissions ready at the chat. So you please use the chat feature if you have questions as we are going along. Again, my name is Ken Bluestejan. I'm the Associate Director of Recruitment. Joining us today, we're very fortunate to have two founding leadership team members with us, Dr. Wales and Dr. Welke. Dr. Wales is also our Provost and Chief Operating Officer, and Dr. Welke is our Campus Dean, as well as one of our professors. We also have our panelists with us. We have two students, Jessica Page and Madeline Jenkins with us. They are also current students. So again, I'd like to welcome all of you. Just to let you know, for those of you that are considering starting medical school, we are currently accepting applications for our January class, as well as our May and September class. And so there are benefits to starting early, which we'll get into in a little bit. So we'll start off actually, why WAUSM, why Western Atlantic University School of Medicine? I'd like to bring Dr. Wales and Dr. Welke for this question. In your experience, you've not only witnessed, but also contributed greatly to the evolution of medical education at both US and Caribbean medical schools. What do you think differentiates WAUSM from other schools?
Would you like me to go first, Dr. Welke, or would you rather?
No, please go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So thank you for that question, Ken. It's an important question, and it's also an exciting question. I think what makes WAUSM different is we have developed a curriculum that is highly integrated, right? So it is a curriculum that helps students study for step one while they're going through the curriculum. So I think our curriculum is unique. I think our faculty are the best there are out there. I think our students are fantastic. We have built the building that they're actually sitting in, built for purpose. It's like we had a blank canvas and we got to take the best things and the best practices in medical education and apply them all here. And so I know that I'm biased. I know that I'm part of the initial leadership team, but we have something very special here. And it's fun to be a part of it, and it's fun to watch it grow. We are very intentional about our culture, whether that means who we hire as faculty, who we bring on as staff, and certainly who we accept as students. And you see that, it permeates our organization. So I'll stop there because I'm going to suck up all the great things that Dr. Welke wants to say. So I'll be quiet.
Well, thanks, Dr. Wales, and good evening to everyone. It's lovely to have everyone here. And I can just echo what Dr. Wales said. I think all of you out there can probably imagine like starting something new with a blank slate. How amazing is that? You can take all the best things, you know, all the best practices and all the things that you sort of dream about and implement it. And it was just so exciting to say, like, oh my goodness, we can hire all the faculty that we know are the best, and we can implement a curriculum that we know is modern, you know, and that's really difficult to do at institutions who are very rooted. Change is hard and all of that. So having something new allows you to be fresh and dynamic and do everything in this wonderful way. So it's just really, really exciting. And I think we can all relate to that. So
It must be also an incredible experience building something around the prospect of having the students have the best opportunity for success in every step of the way. The thoughtful curriculum, as the learning environments, et cetera, that are all geared towards the ultimate goal of providing a phenomenal academic experience and practical experience for that matter.
Mhm.
So I'd like to and thank you for the answers. I'd like to actually turn to our wonderful students that are joining us this evening. Jessica and Madeline, if you could introduce yourself, include your undergraduate institution and major, and if you can talk about what stood out the most when you were looking at choosing WAUSM.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Hi again, my name is Jessica Page. I did my undergraduate at the University of Toledo. I majored in exercise science and minored in psychology. What stood out the most to me to WAUSM was probably the interview I had. It felt so personable. It didn't feel like an interview. I feel like we laughed and talked as though we had been friends for a while, for about 45 minutes. There were things that were pointed out from my personal statement. You know, sometimes we hear that schools may not read your personal statement, but the person that did my interview took time to read it and ask me specific questions, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice.
You know, it goes along the lines of that you are not a number with us. You're a name, and we really do live by that statement 100%. And I'm glad you had that experience.
Hello, I'm Madeline Jenkins. I went to Christopher Newport University, and I majored in neuroscience and minored in psychology. Honestly, what stood out the most was how new though how new WASM was. I was more intrigued than anything, and I was like, oh, this is very interesting. I'll try it out. See where it goes.
I'm going to ask if you can speak a little bit louder. My apologies.
Oh, no, I apologize. I'm Madeline Jenkins. I went to undergrad at Christopher Newport University, and I majored in neuroscience, and I minored in psychology. What I was just saying that I was most intrigued by how new the school was, and I felt that's quite interesting.
Wonderful. And you know, it's, you know, one of the benefits of being in the position that we're in is as we go along term over term, we can also assess what's working and what's not working. And one thing that I've heard from students time and time again, as far as the actual environment, it's a very collaborative environment. It's an environment that promotes growth with the students, and it's a testament to how really the foundation of the university was built. And you know, two of the founding leadership team members are very much involved in that, and it must be also rewarding, Dr. Welke, to see the students that come in on day one and see how they change over time. So it's a wonderful thing. So I'd like to turn the conversation over to the curriculum at this point. And this question is actually for Dr. Welke. Could you walk us through the philosophy behind WAUSM's curriculum?
Yeah, I'd love to, because I get very excited about all this. But so here in Freeport, we are on the pre-clerkship campus. So medical schools can compose a pre-clerkship and then clerkship, which is your clinical experience. But here in Freeport, you'll do 5 terms, which is 20 months. And what we've done is each of those 5 terms has 2 courses, something called a Foundations of Medicine course, and then a patient-centered care course. And so in that Foundations of Medicine course, where we're really accentuating basic science, you're not seeing like an anatomy course or a physiology course or a biochemistry course. We don't teach it that way because as a future physician, you're going to have to know how to interplay and take all of those pieces and manage them into how do you treat that patient, or how do all these things work together? And so we don't silo the different disciplines. We go in and say in our cardiovascular unit, we're teaching hypertension. And in that session, there might be a physiologist, an anatomist, and a clinician. And they're all bouncing, you know, their ideas and thoughts. So students have to come to class with a little bit of prep work. And then in that session, depending on what the session is, they might do clinical cases, they might work with questions, they might play Jeopardy or something like this. But it's all clinically relevant because we know you're coming here to be a future compassionate, competent physician. You're not coming to WAUSM to get a PhD in biochemistry. So we work very, very diligently on making it relevant and applicable to physicians, which I think is really, really something different at WAUSM compared to other schools that may just be regurgitating, here's all the anatomy. You know, we know that you don't have to know all this anatomy. What is clinically important? What is clinically relevant? And then another thing we do, Foundations of Medicine, the students are in a classroom experience, but then with patient-centered care, they in the afternoon, they come into this clinical environment and they'll be applying that knowledge. So what did we learn about hypertension? What did you learn about respiratory distress? And so everything is highly integrated and woven together so that they're meeting all of the objectives and can progress towards their examinations in step 1 and clinical care. So I could go on, but it's just, I think it's one of the amazing things that we do here, just keeping it really relevant to clinicians, following the MBME and the USMLE content outlines, and just keeping it very, very relevant, integrated, and applicable.
You know, it sounds like an incredible active learning model. And what's terrific about that model as well, as you stated, it's not where you are giving out information, asking to have it come back. Have you found that it eliminates lecture fatigue?
Yeah, so it's a great comment, Ken, because we aren't in a lecture type environment. We don't have this amphitheater lecture hall. We have modular spaces, desks, environments, and so we can set them up in lots of different ways. So we might put students in teams and they might work on questions together or cases. For something else, we might do something different. And the students can move everything around and everything is plug and play, very high tech. And we try and you know, involve the students in everything we do. It's constant questions. What do you think? Or how, you know, and it's very, there's very little ego. There's no competition. We want everyone to learn. I always say if everyone gets 100%, that's amazing. Let's do it. And I think it's a very welcoming environment, and we're all there to learn and to drive that learning. So there's a lot of different scenarios. It's very active. Nobody can hide. Like you said, we know everyone's name. You can't hide in the back row or in the corner. You will be called on to participate. And so for students that really want that engaging, active environment and safe space to really share and learn, I think it's incredible here. I think all the faculty welcome that, and I think the students really, really feel that. So,
you know, and just to finish up the point, it's really not possible to have this type of interaction, collaboration when you're, to your point, when you're in an auditorium with 300 of your closest friends and the professor is at the bottom looking like a little ant. And so this is a much better environment, Dr. Wales, I have a question for you. If you could please explain our curriculum and how it prepares the students specifically for clerkship and licensing exams.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. So as Dr. Welke said, our curriculum is highly integrated. It is intentionally designed so that as you are learning, like learning something is kind of hard, right? It's like planting a hook in your brain. So you got to plant hooks in your brain and then you hang things on those hooks and then you develop these tendrils, right? And then when the tendrils interact, it's like, I get how these two things are connected. But we here at WAUSM don't create these long independent tendrils. Rather, we still plant hooks, which is hard, and then we hang things on them, but we create a tapestry, right? So rather than having these long dangling hooks that can break apart, ours is highly integrated and very interdigitated. Because of that, students are in great shape to remember things. So I'm old enough to remember the old gorge and purge model, and I'm sure everybody on this call's done it, where you cram for an exam, and then you regurgitate all the information, right? And you usually do pretty well, or you wouldn't be in this room right now. But if I were to give you that same test 5 weeks later, you might not do as well, right? Our curriculum is intentionally designed so that you retain that information. So obviously, when you're going through the first 5 semesters before you get to the clerkships, you are retaining that information in a way that you really didn't realize, or you really don't realize, but you are, which is important for recall later and also recall on those licensing exams that you're talking about, Ken. And in addition to those licensing exams, what we do in every one of our semesters, WAUSM is very fortunate in that some of us have been around medical education for a very long time in US schools and international schools, and we have a great relationship with the National Board of Medical Examiners. So the NBME, that is the group that writes USMLE Step 1, Step 2, and Step 3. So that's the group that writes the boards. So we have a fantastic relationship with the National Board, and they allow our school to use their comprehensive assessment system. And so what that means is we have access to all of these questions that have been used by the National Board, including all of the statistics that show how students have performed on each of those questions. So we start at the very beginning of our curriculum. Every examination that our students take is an NBME exam. So in the the very first exam in medical school that we have is an NBME exam. And students take 4 of those each semester. So they have 3, we call them summies in the final exam in semester 1, another in semester 2, another in semester 3, another 4 in semester 4. So by the time you get through semester 4, you've taken 16 NBME exams. When you get to semester 5, we have what's called the Comprehensive Basic Science Examination, which is a predictor of your performance on step 1. Mm-hmm. You take that at least 2 or 3 times, right? I say 2 or 3 because currently 3, but we may be switching to 2. Mm-hmm. So by the time you get to the National Board, by the time you sit for the exam, you've already taken 16, 17, 18, 19 NBME exams, right? 2 of which are predictors of performance on step 1. So we're pretty confident that our students are being very well prepared for step 1. Not only are they integrating the material and understanding it at a very deep level, a level that they can draw on and then apply in practice, but they're also taking these exams all along the way, so we know how. So that's probably a long-winded way to answer your question, but I'm really excited about what we're doing. I think it's pretty sweet.
I love your analogy about the tapestry, because that really does bring to life truly how the learning environment and how the learning pieces internally are put together. And I've always loved that analogy that you've used. It's terrific. So thank you for that. So Jessica and Madeline, I want to bring the curriculum question to you at this point as well. Is what do you find the most fascinating about our curriculum, and how has it aided in your success?
Go first. Okay. I believe I find the same things fascinating. The integration of all of the topics and subjects, like Dr. Wells was saying, you do remember, a lot, and you don't think that you would remember a lot. So there are some things that I've been reviewing in 5th semester. I'm like, man, I remember this way back from 3rd semester, and I can still recall that information. And, when I'm doing my practice questions, pick the right answer. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm piecing this together pretty well. I also like that it's a flipped classroom, so it gives you a lot more independent study time, which I think is a great thing as well. So like Dr. Welke was saying, it's not necessarily all lecture, 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 like a lot of us have had in undergrad. It's one, the student to teacher ratio is very small. Like they both said, everybody knows your name. So if you're somebody quiet like me and who doesn't really like to talk in class, it forces you to come out of your shell and it teaches you how to speak up a bit more, even if you are wrong. You know, they take their time with you and they'll be like, okay, well, let's think about it this way. So I think all of it works together perfectly, and that's what's interesting and the best part to me.
And the flipped classroom, again, it brings the opportunity for really the focus on, as Dr. Welke, you pointed out, the hands-on work, not being bogged down with the lecture. I mean, obviously it is covered during the class day, but the focus is on doing the work based on the theoretical framework that was reviewed the day before and bringing that back into the classroom for that day's work. So thank you for that. So Madeline, would you care to also elaborate, please?
Sure. I like Jessica. As she was saying, I love the flipped classroom setting because it gives, like she was saying, it gives me a lot more time to study and get a better understanding of the material. So then when I show up in class, if I have any questions, I can they more like elaborate so I can gain a better understanding even more.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Can I add one little piece that I wanted to say?
Please.
And that is the reason we developed the curriculum the way we did, right? People might say, well, why would you do that? And why do you have a flipped classroom? And why do you do that? So I want everybody online to do this, right? Well, first, I'm going to ask you a question to see if you know the answer. And then you're all going to Google it like lightning, okay? So the question is, how often do you think the base of knowledge, the knowledge in medical education, like how often does the knowledge of medicine double, right? Does anybody know off the top of their head? Nobody wants to take a wild guess? Well, I remember when it took like 20 years for the amount of information, the medical knowledge to double, right? Used to be 20 years. If you do a quick Google right now, it went from 20 years to 10 years to every 5 years, then every 2 years. Right now, medical knowledge doubles every 73 days. Like when we were doing this presentation last year, it was every 79 days, right? It's already gotten faster, just in like 6 months. So the reason we do that is it's impossible for anyone to learn all of that information. But what you have to be able to do is you have to be able to continue learning for the rest of your life in order to be a practicing physician. So I would say to anybody on this call, wherever you decide to go to medical school, make sure that wherever you're going, you are learning how to learn, right? Because this number is going to get faster and faster. And so what I mean by that is there is no way, like when our students come to medical school, 50% of what we teach them will be obsolete while they practice. We just don't know which half, or we wouldn't teach it, right? But that's the point. The point is, if you are engaging in this profession, you must be a lifelong learner. You've got to figure out how to learn. The best time for that to happen is medical school. You do not want to be in a situation where you have gorged and purged and gorged and purged. You show up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as a resident who's responsible for caring for patients, and you haven't figured out how to learn. That is a very difficult situation to be in. So wherever you go, make sure that you are confident that those people can help you learn to learn. That's going to be the most important skill you have as an emerging physician. And I'll stop preaching there, but you've got to learn because that is where it's the only way for you to care for your patients in the future in a safe and productive
Those are terrific points, and thank you for that. It really does hit some very critical points home. So thank you very much for that. So Dr. Welke, behind you is the simulation lab. Very proud of that. Very proud of that. Could you tell us more about the technology in campus space, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, we are sitting in our clinical building. We have four, I think if we go this way, we have four of these simulation bays, and that means we have four high fidelity mannequins here that can pretty much do everything. You'll see a video right now. We can program them to do all sorts of, or, exhibit all sorts of scenarios and ailment and disease states. So the students work in teams, they go in and they have to try and figure out what's going on. And the faculty member acts as sort of the nurse or assistant, and the students have to do this and work through it. And then there's a debrief, like, how did we feel? How did it go? What could we have done better? And you'll see even the crash carts, and so they can put IV drugs in, they can do all sorts of things you see here with the simulators, which are very special. And you'll be doing this from semester 1. So every single semester you do simulation, you're doing PE skills. We see some other task trainers here with bowel and heart sounds and respiratory sounds. So depending on what unit you're in, you're going to be working on these simulators. There's our heart sounds trainer and one of our faculty, Dr. Nielsen. In addition to all of our task trainers and simulators in this environment, we also have standardized patients. We have real patient actors or professional patients that may have the ailment or disease state. They come in and students are able to practice, here we go, practice their PE skills on actual patients that we bring in, either standardized, which are actors, or other. So it's a wonderful time for students to practice their skills. The whole environment is open. Students can come in and sign up to practice with each other or faculty in these rooms and with the trainers. So I think it's just a wonderful environment. And like I said, we do this from semester 1. So you might be 4 weeks in, or not even, I think it's week 3, two or three, where you're going to have your first PE skills lab, and in the first term, your simulation. And the simulations become more complex as you go. So Jessica, you've had a lot of different simulations, and she can probably attest to like how cool that is and that experience. But we're really proud of this space. We've had a lot of visitors and different individuals come to visit campus, and they're really, really impressed by the space, even from other medical schools and physicians. And so we're really proud of that. So that's just the clinical building. I could talk a lot more about campus, but I'll leave it at that right now. So,
it's amazing because also the students are developing muscle memory in a way for these various procedures, and they're not learning how to intubate someone on a real person the first time. And so that, I think those models are terrific. So thank you very much. So Jessica and Madeline, this question is for you. From a student's perspective, what features of the campus do you appreciate the most, and how is it aided in your studies?
I would say that I like that there are different spots for everyone to study. Like if you like it completely quiet, there's a place for that. If you want some background noise, there's a place for that too. It's also very small, so you can get from one end up all the campus to the other in like 5 minutes. It's great. That's my favorite part of it.
there's some place for everyone, right?
I agree with Madeline. There is a place for everybody after 5 o'clock when classes are done for all semesters. Some of the classes do turn into dedicated quiet space for those of us who like to just sit and study, quietly, or there are more interactive areas, if you go and you want to study with a group. So I think those features are really cool. So aside from the classrooms as well, they even dedicated a space for us in the admin building. There's a row of desks if we need to sit in there, and it makes it easier to access the faculty. If we have questions, a couple steps and you're at somebody's door.
And again, it all leads back to providing opportunity and balance as well. I mean, needing to have spaces that are quiet, needing to have spaces that are active, and everything else in between. It really does look out for, and this is part of one of the tenets of our mission statement and core values is being concerned about the health and welfare of our students, both physically, mentally, et cetera. So that's wonderful. I'm glad that you're experiencing those things. I want to take this time for those students actually that joined us late. I just want to reiterate the fact that we are currently accepting applications for our January class, in addition to our May and September start. So if you're looking to start our medical school early, we are definitely accepting applications for those particular classes. You don't necessarily need to have all of your documentation together to submit the initial application. Once you submit the application, you'll be contacted by one of our associate directors of admissions individuals to help you, guide you through the process of getting the materials in and then getting your application ready for review by committee. So I just wanted to bring that up for those individuals who may have joined us late. So moving on, I'd like to have this question for Dr. Welke. Could you talk about the learning resources provided to all of our WAUSM students?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. I have to chuckle because I think there's so many resources. If I talk about just library resources, the students have access to osmosis. Some of you might know osmosis. They have AMCAS. We've got library research. We've got LWW library. We've got a complete anatomy. My goodness, it goes on and on. In the fifth semester, students get UWorld, access to UWorld. A lot of you out there might know UWorld is one of the awesomest question banks for step 1 study. We've got, and then those are just the library resources and sort of the, I guess, in IT resources. But then we have, there's peer learning partners. We have something called the Center for Academic Success. So within that Center for Academic Success are the peer learning partners. And so those are like peer tutors and teaching assistants. And we also have different workshops through CAS if you're interested in how to maximize working with questions or your time management or study skills or study strategies. Like Dr. Wales said, it's so important learning how to learn and how to be so efficient with the content and material and applying it. So we do have that center where there's a lot of different avenues to help students. We also have counseling and wellness, as we mentioned. It's a really big component of our culture, culture of care for one another and well-being. And so we have a full-time counselor and wellness sort of coach on campus. Office is right there. So there's a lot of different sort of resources in this umbrella, there's sort of success and avenues for help and support and wellness and from academic to personal. So it's really great. And I'm probably missing some that the students that utilize, but yeah, that's a start.
One of the things that comes to mind in caring about the students and having the students focus on their own health is the idea of compassionate care towards your patients. Because if you're taking care of yourself and you know what it's like to be on the other side of the table in any capacity, then it's going to allow you to really be able to put your patients' responses, their feelings, et cetera, in the forefront. There was an article that came out a few years back in Time magazine that talked about the one issue that patients had for their medical care that was consistent was at times the issue of poor bedside manner for how they're being treated. So I think this is terrific. Not only does it serve the purpose of assisting the students physical, emotional, academic well-being, but also it does create the foundation for how the students are going to be able to go out and actually understand how the patient on that side is feeling. So I think that's it may be a very well be an unintended consequence of those services. So
100%. And I wanted to add too, one of the the biggest thing is we have a culture here of openness and inclusion, and just, so I want to say too that all faculty have their doors open. Unless they're in a meeting or with a student, and it has to, it has to be closed. So we, students are allowed to come and see faculty at any time. My door is always open. They can pop in. And so I think that's really important, and that's part of that Center for Academic Success. Faculty are, we hire, all of our faculty are full-time. Almost 99% of them are full-time here. They have offices here, they live here, they work here, and they're very, very dedicated. So I think it's a huge point. And that's something we really wanted to strive for in our environment. There's a lot of schools out there who have visiting faculty just coming and going. But we really wanted full-time faculty that were medical educators and dedicated to teaching medicine. And I think that makes a huge difference because it provides a constant support for students. They know all the students' names, the students can go and connect with faculty, and it's really brilliant. So thanks for allowing me to add that piece, because I think it's really important.
well, to your point, having full-time faculty, it's not just a commitment to the students, but it's a commitment to the growth and success of the university as well. That their focus and attention is 100% on the students and making sure that we're doing as best as we possibly can to help the students promote their opportunity for success.
Yep.
So that's terrific.
Yep. Thank you.
So to Jessica and Madeline, this question's for you. What was your biggest academic adjustment to medical school, and how did you overcome it? And what were some of the support systems that you used to make that wonderful, easy adjustment? It wasn't easy, but
Honestly, it was how I had, it was how I studied, because in undergrad, I could probably study for like an hour a day and be fine. Here, that's not possible.
Yeah.
So I think now I study like 10-ish hours a day, and it's great, but but it was overwhelming at first, and the school is great and open, and you can ask for help almost anywhere. So I would go to PLP, the professors, and ask questions whenever I had them, or get tips on how to learn better, and that has helped me quite a bit.
That's actually a common issue that first semester medical students have stated, is that they've underestimated the study time. And so I'm glad that you were able to utilize the resources to help you adjust to medical school life and medical school studying. And that there's an analogy as far as the amount of lecture material that comes out on any given day in medical school is the equivalent of learning how to drink water from a fire hose. And so being able to place your buckets in the room to be able to capture that information and then be able to study it, I think that's terrific. So, and if you can share that with us as well, please.
So for me, my biggest challenge was time management. When you get here, you only have class so many hours a day, given the style of the curriculum. So for first semester, your classes are from 8 to 12. So, you're like, oh, I have the whole day to myself. And that's just not the case. That's not the case at all. So I had to quickly adjust and get help. So what helped me overcome that was I utilize OSA a lot. So I would go to CAS. So I use Dr. Zellner for time management tips and study tips. And then I also, even to this day, I have weekly check-in meetings with Dr. Evans in OSA as well as Ms. Camille in OSA to make sure I'm staying on track and staying on top of my time, to make sure I'm not wasting any time anywhere and really getting the most out of my day, to make sure that I don't revert back to, oh, I have all day, because you don't.
And again, I mean, the beauty of the environment. I've heard students say that some students have stated that it's a great environment to study, and some, to your point, it's it can be a little distracting if the focus is not there, because it's such a beautiful island, and the campus is beautiful as well. So I'm glad that both of you have been utilizing the resources that we have to really help. I mean, you should still enjoy the island, don't get me wrong, but it's focusing on, it's clear that you understand why you're there, and that's terrific. So speaking of student life in Freeport, Dr. Welke, as part of the founding leadership team and really one of the first in Freeport, could you talk about what students can expect when coming to Freeport, Grand Bahama, and what the campus environment is like for students?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Yeah, I always talk about Freeport as Goldilocks. If you know the story, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? It's just right. It really is. It's just right. It provides. It feels small town. It's close-knit community. It's welcoming. It provides, and what I mean by just right, it provides just enough sort of quiet and isolation for students to do what they need to do, which is apply their knowledge to patient care and get that work done. But it so provides that, but it also provides enough activity. So you have your fast food restaurants, you've got your a little bit of shopping, you've got your beach and water sports, and the things that you like to do. There's lots of people are playing tennis and pickleball and volleyball, and they cycle, and so I think it's just Goldilocks. It's just right. And also we're so close to the United States. It's a 25-minute flight. And so, students, they're adults, they're adult learners. If they need to pop back for a family event or a long weekend or medical care, whatever, it makes it really easy. So I think it's just right here. And I see we're looking at an image. There we are. And so you can get everything that you need here. I mean, the grocery stores are nice, and yeah, there is. It's not a culture shock as you may feel in other environments. The campus, as I think was mentioned earlier, is fit for purpose. We had say in how it looked, how it feels, how it was built. Every inch of this, our assistant dean for medical education said it's got to go on that wall, and we need this and we need that. And that was really important. I mean, how cool is that? We got to go through the floor plans and figure out how we wanted it to be in order to help students in their study and their success and the different areas and everything. So I think, and I've heard so much, Office of Student Affairs does an amazing job helping students transition. There's very little, and I'll let you guys talk about that, but it's pretty, it goes really smoothly. And that's our feedback. So there's a lot of help, support, because we want you to come here and really focus on digging in, and getting that job done. So I'll stop there.
And again, it really does lend to some of the core tenets of accessibility and opportunity. And not only being so close to the states, be able to have and not just accessible from directly from the states, but also from Canada and all over the world, individuals who it's the obstacle of actually getting to the island has been virtually eliminated because of where the university is situated. So I think that's also very, very thoughtfully done. For Jessica and Madeline, could you talk about your experience in Freeport?
Well, so far so good. I can't really complain much. They're really, I mean, it's not like you're in a third world world country. It's right off the coast of Florida. So if, as Dr. Lucky said, if you need to hop over, you can. It's like a half-hour plane ride plus customs. That's like the hardest part. And like the locals were pretty friendly, so that's a plus. And you can get almost almost everything that you need at the grocery stores. The only thing I would say is if you're from like California, it's part on an issue, but the prices are a bit more
Because we're on
than
island.
we're at home, because you're
Yeah.
on an island, everything is imported. It's not really, I wasn't surprised. I was like, oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah.
My
Thank you.
experience has been, oh, sorry.
No, sorry, thank you. Yes.
My experience has been pretty great as well. As mentioned, it is a tight-knit community, so everywhere you go, because there's only so many places within Freeport, generally you see some of the same people, so you get to know some of the locals, and some of them even start to look out for you as though you're their child. They're like, oh, you go to the medical school? Okay, well, make sure when you come back, and so they check in with you, they ask how you're doing. When I first got here, I met a friend in MAP who was from here. So her family took me in. So I've been able to have a second family here. And then there's, like Dr. Welke was saying, it's a great balance. So it's quiet enough on the island. So if you need to go home and study, or if you just want to go and kind of just, get away from school for only a couple hours because you don't have, because you have to study, it's still enough to do. And so I think it's been a wonderful experience. I'm gonna be sad when I have to leave. And also, if you have questions about the island, some of the admin are from Grand Bahama. So it's like, hey, is there anything going on, or where should I go for this? They can answer your questions very quickly or point you in the right direction.
Thank you. And to the parents that are on the call this evening, community for your loved ones is absolutely there. So that's a big factor. And so need not worry, as they say. So thank you very much for that.
Ken,
Yes.
can I add to that? Because everything that's been said is so important. And it's important because medical school, no matter where you go to medical school, it is tough. It is hard. You're going to be studying 10 plus hours a day most of the time, and you have to. Even though we've developed the curriculum so that you retain things and we have a lot of support, medical school is hard. It's always going to be hard. And every single student is going to have a bad day or a bad week or a bad month or a bad semester. And so we have intentionally designed our school so that we support each other during that time. Everyone's going to have good and bad days, but we all support each other. And I think that's critically important. So when you said to the parents, community is important, I thought, yeah, so I'm a parent and I have 2 adult daughters. And I can tell you right now, it is extremely important in medical school to be in a place where you feel like you can walk into a faculty member's office, sit down and say, I just don't get it. Or you can walk into their office and say, you know what? I broke up with my boyfriend from Georgia. Can I cry in here for a minute? And that's okay. Or when they come in and they say, I'm not going to be able to go to my grandma's birthday because I have an exam. It's her first birthday in my 25 years that I have missed my grandma's birthday, right? We're there for all those kinds of things. And so I would say to all the parents and all the students, know that there are going to be tough times in medical school, and make sure that wherever you land, it is a place where you will have the support that you need, but also a place where you feel like you can give that support to others, because it takes a whole village to do this medical school thing. There's no question about it. So thanks for letting me talk about that for a minute.
And to that point, though, the way that the leadership team has put together, again, the foundation of a house the house is only as strong as its foundation is. And the foundation that you've put together with Dr. Welke and the other founding leadership team members to create this type of environment really does lend for a very strong foundation outside of the academic work, but it's very much connected to the academic work. To your point, we'll have bad days, and collaboration and support is critical. And I just wanted to commend you for really forward thinking about, you know, how are students truly going to be. I also have two teenage daughters. I have a daughter in college. The same thing, making sure that that they have the critical support systems that are necessary to be able to move forward. So actually, while I have you, Dr. Wales, this question is for you. This has to do with our clerkship. And so could you talk a little bit about our clerkship program at St. Anthony Hospital, and what can prospective students expect in the clerkship years?
The clerkship years are fun. So that's what I'll say, especially to our two students who are sitting there in the pre-clerkship part of the curriculum. So after you spend 20 months in Freeport, Grand Bahama in trimesters or semesters 1 through 5, then you come to, right now, St. Anthony Hospital, which is in Chicago. St. Anthony Hospital has been a teaching hospital for, I think, 50 or 60 years. We've had a long-standing relationship with some of the folks there. Students take 6 core clerkships during the clerkship year. Those 6, they take, it's a total of 48 weeks across 6 clerkships. So there's 12 weeks of surgery, 12 weeks of internal medicine, 6 weeks of family medicine, 6 weeks of OBGYN, 6 weeks of psychiatry, and 6 weeks of pediatrics, right? So they take all of those at our hospital affiliates. So we have affiliations with St. Anthony Hospital. We also have affiliations with Doctors Hospital in Nassau, and we have affiliation agreements with Insight Hospital in Chicago. And we are in the process of creating additional clinical affiliates as we speak. Students finish that 3rd year of those core clerkships, and then they go into the 4th year of the curriculum. And in the 4th year, all students are required to do a sub-internship. So you might go, what is a sub-internship? And a sub-internship is when you do like an acting, you act as a resident. So you take on additional responsibility. We do that very intentionally because we want all of our students to have a letter from one of the faculty members who observed them saying, I've seen this student perform as a resident and they were fantastic. Then our students also are required to do 4 weeks of either emergency medicine or critical care because we think that's critically important to their education. Then they have 22 golden weeks to do whatever they want, as long as it's, you know, as long as there are appropriate educational objectives attached to that. So I tell students, I tell faculty, I'll tell anyone who will listen to me that it is my belief that electives are worth their weight in gold. And they're worth their weight in gold because they allow you to do a couple of things. They allow you to participate in educational activities that you might not otherwise get an opportunity to participate in. They can help you prepare or become more competitive for a residency slot. They can even help students. So, you know, I tell this story like every year I have students come to me and say, Dr. Wales, I emerged from my mother's womb knowing I was destined to be a surgeon, right? And you look at them and there's some students you're like, okay, you're ready, let's go. And there are other students you're like, I know that that's your dream, but I'm not sure that your stats support it. Let's figure out how to get you some help. So I would hop on the phone, or Danielle, she would hop on the phone, or someone, one of our faculty would hop on the phone, find this student a surgery elective in like a community-based program where we know that they're looking for residents. And we'd say, hey, we have a student who is fantastic, who would like to do an elective there. Can we get him or her in? And they would say, yes, of course. Then that student would go do a fantastic job and then be invited back for residency interview or a residency position. So we have lots of ways of helping students on an individual basis in the 4th year. So we explore all of those and do those. And I also want to say there's some conversation in the chat. People are asking about match and how does that work? And so our school, we took a charter class in January of 22. So our charter class is now in their clerkships, or that 3rd year. They'll begin their 4th year in 25. So they will be in the match for 26, right? And what I will say is the founders of the school, when we got together, we sat down, and even though WAUSM is a new school, we are not new at this. We, on the back of a napkin, scratched down, like I was at the Indiana University School of Medicine. Dr. Flaherty, who was our president, was at University of Illinois. We were both at Ross. And when we calculated the number of students that we were personally responsible for helping match, together it was over 25,000 students. Well, 25,000 practicing physicians in the United States. So we're not new at the match game. And one other, like, I want to say, just sort of golden nugget in our pocket is Danielle McDonald. She's not put herself on screen yet, but Danielle works with me at Nova. When I was at Nova Southeastern University, we started the MD program there before coming to WASM. We had a 100% match rate under Danielle's watch. I don't know if you know that, Ken, but I know Danielle's your boss, right? But she did. We had a 100% match rate under Danielle. And so my point is, we're a new school, but we are not new at this. I'm not at all worried about match rate. I'm not at all worried about placing students. We've done it time and time again. And I'm actually really excited to take the WASM students out to market, if you will, because I think they're going to be phenomenal. And I'll stop talking. That was more than you expected me to answer.
No, but that was beautiful, and it covered points that as the admissions team and as the recruitment team, we get those questions quite frequently, and so thank you for so beautifully and eloquently putting that there. I appreciate it greatly. Next question, or for our students, looking at starting medical school off cycle. And this question is more actually for Jessica. Actually, we have a few of our students starting in January. They're joining us this evening. Could you walk us through your decision to start an off cycle in January as opposed to September? Would you say? Because we have our upcoming January class.
So there were a few things that played into me starting in January. Some of the biggest were just making sure everything in my outside life was settled first. But then what made me feel so good about starting in January, you're starting this new chapter of your life at the beginning of the year. So you get to see the progression as the year goes on. It's also not too bad of a time to start. So for those that are from the cold states, you get out of winter just in the nick of time. For those that know, January is normally the coldest month in the winter time. But I liked starting at the beginning of the year, starting something new, and then just going ahead and getting started so that I can go ahead and finish.
Wonderful, thank you. And for Madeline, from your perspective, you started in September. What was your transition like coming in?
I felt like I was more prepared to start in September than earlier. I feel like I need to get all my ducks in a row before I started that new chapter. So for me personally, it was the right choice to start what I did.
And again, what's nice about the option is that for those students that are ready and that do not want to wait, we have the option to start, because we have rolling admissions, you could start, as Jessica did, in January and go for, getting out of the snow, because I'm in the Northeast, and every New Year's I get a call from my brother who lives in California, just laughing at us because we're inundated with snow. So it's, aside from other benefits, getting out, to your point, getting out of the colder weather, and really, the class sizes are generally a little bit smaller in January for the January class. So there's more accessibility. I mean, there's great accessibility no matter what term you start, but there's even more so starting in the off cycle. So thank you for that. So last but not least, for Jessica, what advice would you give students who are thinking about starting in January?
What advice would I give? Ooh. Well, the first thing would be, so for me personally, the way I was raised, my auntie and my mom always said, pray about everything. So if you're somebody who prays, if you consider yourself to be religious, I would say pray and talk to whoever it is you believe in. Talk to your support circle around you at home and be like, okay, well, what do you think about this? I feel this way. Just to pick people's brains and to, make sure what you're doing is right for you. So those would be my two biggest things. Talk to somebody whose judgment you can trust and pray.
Thank you. And again, at the end of the day, if you're ready to do it, why put it off? Is really how we look at it. So thank you for that. Actually last set of questions, we'll start off with Dr. Welke and Dr. Wales. Advice for prospective students. What advice would you give prospective students considering their medical school option?
Dr. Welke, you want to go first this time, or you want me to?
You can go ahead.
Okay, Allie. So I could give you a lot of advice. So that's why I was like, are you sure you don't want to go? I would say, I think pretty much what I said before, and that is medical school's tough. It's really hard. Make sure that you find a place where you're going to fit, where you're going to soar when you are your best, and when you're going to be supported when you're feeling your worst, right? I don't believe the material is ever too hard, but the material does come fast and furiously. So please be in a place that can help you maximize your studying and support you as a learner. In a place that, as you heard earlier, one of our students said, I'm going to miss this place. Most people don't say that about medical school. Nobody wants to go back to medical school, right? So that is a feeling and a gift that can't be underestimated. And of course, I'd give you all the other stuff. Make sure you do the prerequisites, make sure you study, but I have a feeling you all know that already. The things you might not be thinking about are, how am I going to be supported on a bad day? And how might I be able to support others? Those are the things I'd say be mindful of. And also, don't lose your support systems at home, right? Stay connected to home, stay connected to the things you love. If you like to play piano, do that. If you like to play pickleball, do that. Don't give up everything that you are to become a medical student, because you won't be a successful medical student if you do that. And then I'll stop because I'm sure Dr. Welke has a lot to add.
And I might throw you for a loop, because I'll actually say, be prepared to give up some things. Because on the converse side, I think it's because it's so hard. It really is. It's not high school, it's not undergrad. And I think we've seen students come in and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was going to be this hard, and that I'd have to study this much, and that you may have to give up social media. I mean, putting it out there, or limit it. Figure out how to put boundaries on yourself, so, or, and things, so you can be successful, because it is hard. And I think just really getting your mind wrapped around the preparedness, getting into that you might miss some important events that would have otherwise been meaningful to you, simply because you're taking on this journey and this challenge of becoming a physician, which is so important. I mean, these are patients' lives and patients' care. And so I think it's really coming to terms like, I'm going to really focus and do my best and work really hard for the next 20 months, and then get into clerkships. And probably you might have to shift and be prepared in a different way for clerkships. So I would and that's okay. Like, as Dr. Wells said, we're all here to support one another and get you through that. But there might be some changes that you may need to make, and just some preparedness, both mind, body, and soul, for taking on this challenge. So I wouldn't underestimate it, and how important it is, and how thrilling and exciting, like we said earlier, there might be bad days, but there are going to be so many days filled with joy also.
and to, to the point that's been interwoven throughout this discussion, the support is there. So yes, it's hard and it's built that way, but also it's built with support mechanisms to provide the best opportunities for students to be successful. And so my last question, it's for Jessica and Madeline. You were once in the audience shoes considering your medical school options. What advice would you give prospective students, both traditional and non-traditional, about traditional and non-traditional medical school?
I say that you should do what is right for what is right for you. If you need to be at a specific place, you'll find a school in that place. Or if you need, you're gonna go through probably the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life, and I can attest to that. It's quite hard, but it's for a short amount of time compared to your decades and on as being a doctor. So yes, that's that.
For me, I would say, for prospective students, like Dr. Wilkie was saying, be prepared to work hard. Be prepared definitely to give up a few things. You don't have to give up everything, but like she was saying, find a balance. So for me, I had to get rid of social media while the semester was in. Also, like Dr. Wells said, keep your support system at home. So I try to call my grandparents and my aunt at least once a week so that I can stay in touch with, the state side of me. And, if I'm extremely stressed out at school, I have some people that I can talk to bring me right back down, to keep me on track. Yeah. And the biggest thing, just be prepared to work hard, but also be prepared to be supported. Like we've touched on all night, the faculty and all of the admin are extremely supportive. They do take the time out. I had a professor ask me today, what's going on? Are you okay outside of academics? So just be prepared for a shift, but it's a good shift. I don't think it's a shift you'll regret.
Thank you. So I want to close. First of all, I want to thank our panelists for such a rich and engaging dialogue. And I hope for those individuals that have joined us, we've given you many reasons why you should choose WAUSM and about what we are about. I also want to thank our backroom support team that's been answering a lot of the chat questions as well. Just as a couple of closing thoughts, for those of you that joined us, we will be reaching out to you over the next couple of days just as a follow-up to see if there are any questions that you have. Again, we are currently accepting applications for the upcoming January class. So if you are looking to apply, it's absolutely not too late. Our associate directors of admissions will help you through the process. And it's very, very feasible, very possible to start in January as well. If you have any questions coming up, you can reach us at admissions@wasm.education. You need to spell the word education out. So it's admissions@wasm.education. I would like to again thank Dr. Wells and Dr. Welke, as well as Jessica and Madeline, for your time this evening. I hope that we answered a lot of questions for you. And again, if not, we are accessible. We are here to help you. And we are here to assist you, not just from the information and admission standpoint, but as you have seen throughout this dialogue, from start to finish, you are absolutely a name with us and never a number. And I'd like to finish by stating that we really do pride ourselves on the fact that we take excellent care of our student population, and what that truly demonstrates is how serious we take the responsibility of training you as physicians. You come to us, we will provide you the best opportunities to be successful in your education. So again, on behalf of the entire team, I'd like to thank everyone for attending, and we wish you a very good evening, and we will be in touch very soon. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, there you go. There were a lot of people to put in the waiting room.
How many did we have in the end?
We had a steady 45 or so that stayed the whole time, and then we had a few people that were jumping in and out. People were doing other things. They're coming in, they would ask the question, they get an answer, they go back. And I had one guy come and go like 6 times.
Oh.
But we had a nice steady 45 that was here the whole time, which is
Nice.
really good.
So how many did we have like this morning versus now? Like didn't you guys do a big texting campaign or something? Like,
before the text campaign, we had 13 people registered. And after the text campaign, we got 309. And the good thing about that is a lot of those people will register just because they want to get the recording after. So they may not be able to make it, but they want to get their information in there. So I think that's helpful.
Sure, because then you can contact them, right? You get the contact info.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Great.
Great work, you guys.
Yeah, great job, everybody. Yeah, I don't know why your mic didn't work at the beginning, Ken, but that was weird.
Yeah, I have no. It was working when we were talking, but it humanized the entire scenario. Is how I look at it. So it's
Danielle's fault. She told you to mute.
no. I mean, it was
I'll take it.
unmuted. But actually, I truly believe something that my father had said many years ago. He said, if there's something that even minorly goes wrong at the beginning of something, the rest of it's going to be smooth. And so I think the rest of it went smoothly. So, this was fun again. Thank you everybody for your support and for I love doing these things. So I want to thank. I hope it made sense, and I hope some of my commentary was clear as well. So
And our students are rock stars. Woo, woo.
yes, absolutely,
you.
100%.
It just shows we're real, Ken, like when things like that happen. So
Yeah.
we embraced it. We're real, you know?
There you go. No, but to Dr. Will's point, thank you, Jessica and Madeline, for you did a fantastic job. So thank you very much.
All right. Goodbye for
Right.
work.
It's a wrap.
Bye, everybody.
Everyone.
You guys take care.
All right, good night, Ken.
Good night.